Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something maybe a bit ambitious. We're diving deep, really deep, into just one chapter from Tolkien's The Two Towers.
Just one, but what a chapter.
Right. It's called the Palantír. And it's kind of amazing how it shows that sometimes, the fate of Middle-earth doesn't turn on big armies or kings.
No, sometimes it turns on the smallest characters, the most, let's say, curious ones, making a really, really bad choice in the middle of the night.
Exactly. A terrible choice, really.
You could say it's one of the most critical narrative points in the whole story. We're looking at this chain reaction, right? All started by that black orb, the Palantír.
The one worm tongue just chucked out of Orthanc.
Yeah.
Like a piece of trash.
Pretty much. And Pippin took, well, his curiosity, maybe innocent, maybe just foolish, turns that object into something that escalates the entire conflict, a global military incident, essentially.
Yeah, it's like a pebble starting an avalanche. So today, we're really dissecting that, the high-stakes gamble of just being reckless. Our goal isn't just plot summary,
No, definitely not.
We want to get into the strategy, the philosophy behind this one moment. And the big question, the paradox is, how did this massive mistake actually end up helping the West, giving them this quiet, almost hidden strategic edge?
And that paradox, that's what makes the chapter just brilliant. It's this perfect bridge in the narrative. It takes the story from, the political win in Rohan and Isengard.
Which felt like a big deal at the time.
Huge deal. But this chapter lifts us right out of that and throws us headfirst towards the apocalypse waiting in Gondor. And the theme running through it all, it's this warning about dangerous knowledge, the temptation of seeing too much.
Okay, that sets things up perfectly. Let's unpack it. What does the Palantír really stand for? Vision, power, corruption, all that. And yeah, how did Pippin's blunder actually help save the world? All right, so to really get the weight of Pippin's late-night decision, we need to understand where everyone's head is at. Let's start there. Section 2. The calm before the storm.
Exactly. Context is everything. The chapter picks up right after the voice of Saruman. Remember that scene? Super intense.
Oh, yeah. Confronting Saruman.
Right. So the company Gandalf, Aragorn, Theoden, Legolas, Gimli, the hobbits, they're absolutely wiped. They just fought Helm's Deep. They marched. They faced Saruman's persuasive power. It should be feeling pretty good, right? A moment of victory, finally some rest.
And Tolkien paints that picture really well, doesn't he? It's quiet, almost domestic. They're sharing stories, trying to unwind, thinking, okay, what's next? Probably a council of war or something.
But the pieces, well, it's fragile. Tolkien keeps showing us this in Middle-earth, doesn't he? A quiet moment is often when you're most vulnerable, because the enemy never rests, and, hobbits get curious. Or humans get complacent. Weakness creeps in.
That contrast is key.
And the setting is vital because it introduces the main player of the chapter. The Palantír itself, just lying there. Remember, Wormtongue threw it down, maybe as a weapon, maybe just out of spite. Who knows?
And Gandalf scoops it up, wraps it in cloth. Now, for you listening, if you know your lore, this isn't just some magic crystal ball.
Not at all. These Palantíri, the Seeing Stones, there were 7. There was gifts, ancient gifts from the elves, the Eldar, to the Númenóreans, specifically to Elendil's line, the Faithful.
So think of them like ancient tech. Super high-def, secure video conferencing across continents, linking the big Númenórean strongholds in Middle-earth.
Exactly. Instant communication. But, and this is crucial, not all the stones were the same. Gandalf had this nagging feeling, which gets confirmed later, that this stone, the Orthanc stone, wasn't safe anymore.
Why not?
Because it had likely been compromised by Sauron. The stone Sauron himself used was the one from Minas Ithil, the city he captured and renamed Minas Morgul. Right?
Yeah, the Tower of Black Sorcery.
Precisely. And Saruman had been using the Orthanc stone to communicate, probably trying to gain power or knowledge, but he ended up talking directly to Sauron through that Minas Ithil stone. All the stones in the West could be influenced, even dominated, by a stronger will using another stone, especially one linked to the original Master Stone, or in this case, influenced by Sauron's sheer power projected through the Ithil stone.
So the Orthanc stone was basically listening to Sauron, or Sauron was listening through it.
More like Sauron could exert his will through the connection. Saruman thought he was being clever using it, but he was the one being used, corrupted. So Gandalf knew this thing was hot.
Okay, so Gandalf wraps it up. He knows this isn't just a handy communication device anymore. It's a direct line to Sauron. Weaponized information. He guards it, keeps it close.
Which, of course, only makes it more interesting, doesn't it? especially to someone like Pippin.
Yeah, totally. Forbidden fruit.
And Tolkien builds that psychological tension so well around Pippin. His curiosity feels very hobbit-like, almost childish, really. He's not evil. He doesn't want power.
He just feels left out, maybe. Wants to know the secret Gandalf's hiding.
Exactly. The text says the orb calls to him, shimmering in his mind's eye. It's this pull, this fascination.
And it's interesting, isn't it, that this very relatable, almost mundane impulse curiosity, feeling excluded, maybe just wanting a distraction after all the terror, that's the weak point. That little lapse in discipline, right when they finally feel safe for a second, that's the crack where disaster gets in.
And it shows that the real danger isn't always the orc army outside the gate. Sometimes it's the internal failure, the lax in vigilance. They won the political fight with Saruman, sure.
Physically won.
Right. But the spiritual battle, the fight against temptation, against wanting that forbidden knowledge, that shortcut, it's ongoing. The Palantír embodies that temptation perfectly, wanting to see everything instantly without the hard work or the humility.
Okay, so Tolkien's built up all this tension, this quiet dread almost.
Yeah.
And then it pays off. Section 3, the gaze, this is it. The moment.
The moment of fatal curiosity. Late at night, everyone's asleep, exhausted, even Gandalf, which is a great touch, right? Shows his own weariness, his own limits.
Yeah, he's not infallible.
And Pippin. He creeps over, steals the Palantír from Gandalf. Just this small, seemingly selfish act. But boom, that's the trigger. That's what sends the whole plot careening towards the endgame.
And the shift in tone is immediate. It's terrifying. Tolkien's language gets really vivid, almost nightmare.
It's not like Pippin sees Mordor laid out like a map or Sauron giving orders. It's more elemental, pure terror.
Fire, darkness, and that eye.
That vast lidless eye, searching, just searching in the void, and Pippin just screams this cry of pure, unadulterated terror.
What's so chilling about it, I think, is how personal it feels. It's not a battle scene. There are no monsters jumping out.
No, it's purely psychic. It's the immense crushing will of Sauron slamming directly into the mind of this small, totally unprepared hobbit.
He looked right into the abyss, and he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't worthy, in a way, of that kind of attention.
And he barely survives it. The narrative really makes you feel that breakdown, doesn't it? Pippin goes from being this curious tid to just a terrified wreck in an instant.
Absolutely. But right in the middle of that disaster, that's where we get this, what did you call it, the strange twist of fate.
Yes, this is the absolute genius of the chapter. Sauron sees Pippin, but Sauron is, in his own way, blind.
Blinded by what? His own evil.
By his own assumptions, his own worldview. He sees this terrified figure, but he interprets it through his own lens of power, politics, and control.
So he doesn't see Pippin to a curious hobbit.
No way. He thinks, okay, who is this? Saruman must have captured someone. Maybe a spy? Maybe. Maybe it's the ring bearer himself. Saruman has him.
Wow. Okay, so why does Sauron jump to that conclusion? Why such a massive intelligence blunder?
Because Sauron only thinks in terms of power. Kings, wizards, rings of power, armies. The idea of a small, insignificant hobbit just looking into a Palantír out of sheer curiosity, it doesn't compute.
It's outside his operational parameters.
Exactly. He assumes anyone using the stone must be trying to wield its power, must be someone important, someone like Saruman. He cannot imagine someone so unimportant, so lacking in ambition would dare to look.
That inability to see the small, the humble, that's his weakness.
It's his Achilles heel throughout the whole story, isn't it? His pride, his focus on grand power makes him overlook the hobbits. And that mistake right here, Tolkien calls it the seed of victory.
So Sauron sees Pippin, thinks it's someone important held at Isengard.
And he immediately starts planning his next moves based on completely wrong information, wrong person, wrong place.
Which gives Gandalf an opening.
A huge, unexpected tactical opening. It turns what should have been game over, really Sauron alerted, maybe even locating the Fellowship into a potential advantage, all thanks to Sauron's arrogance. Which leads us straight into Section 4, strategic blunder and Gandalf's reaction, because Pippin screams right, wakes everyone up, chaos.
And Gandalf is there in a flash.
Yeah.
His reaction. It's complex, isn't it? You see the absolute fury. He knows the danger. Pippin just put them all in.
Oh yeah, the text makes it clear. He's furious. But almost immediately, that anger gets tempered, doesn't it?
Yeah, with pity. He sees Pippin utterly broken and terrified and understands this hobbit was just overwhelmed, out of his depth.
But then, even faster than the pity comes the calculation. The strategic mind kicks in, cold, fast.
He processes what just happened almost instantly.
Right. And the tactical blessing is immediately clear to him. Sauron saw Pippin. Sauron thinks Pippin is at Isengard, probably Saruman's prisoner.
So Sauron's attention is now fixed on Orthanc, on Saruman.
Exactly. He thinks the Palantír and whoever was using it are there. So Sauron's going to be focusing his thought, maybe even some resources, on dealing with the aftermath of Saruman's defeat, figuring out who this captive is.
Instead of focusing on the real threat.
Frodo and Sam, miles away, heading east towards Mordor with the ring. Sauron's eye is, for a crucial moment, looking completely the wrong way.
That misdirection. It buys him time, doesn't it?
Priceless time. Time for Frodo and Sam to keep moving undetected. Time for Gondor to prepare, maybe without Sauron immediately realizing the full urgency or the exact nature of the counterstroke Gandalf is planning. Time is everything in this war.
Wow. So this totally reinforces that classic Tolkien theme, right?
Yeah.
The small, the foolish, the unexpected. They change everything.
Absolutely. Pippin's blunder, which could have been utterly catastrophic, turns into a strategic win purely because he was so, well, insignificant in the grand scheme that the enemy literally couldn't process him correctly.
His weakness becomes their strength, weirdly.
Paradoxical, but yeah.
But hang on, we should probably ask, wasn't Gandalf maybe a little careless here? I mean, this Palantír is obviously incredibly dangerous. Why wasn't it, like, locked in a box or something? Why leave it just wrapped in cloth next to him while he slept?
That's a fair question. You could argue he underestimated Pippin's curiosity or overestimated the company's discipline after the battle. Gandalf isn't perfect. He's weary. He's got the weight of the world quite literally on his shoulders.
So, human error. Or hobbit error, in Pippin's case.
Maybe. But there's also that hint of providence. Maybe. Gandalf did secure it as best he thought necessary in the moment, but if he had locked it away perfectly, this misdirection wouldn't have happened. Sauron's perceptual flaw wouldn't have been exposed. So in a way, Gandalf's fatigue, or Pippin's lapse, becomes part of this larger, unseen pattern that ultimately benefits the West. It's complicated.
Okay. So Gandalf sees the mistake, sees the terror, but also sees the opportunity. And he knows they can't just stay put.
No way. The game has changed. Instantly. He realizes the focus of the war is shifting east, towards Gondor, towards Minas Tirith, and he has to go. Now.
Immediately, at dawn.
Right? He makes this incredibly decisive choice. He's riding to Minas Tirith, and he's taking Pippin with him.
Why Pippin specifically? Just to keep an eye on him.
Partly that. Pippin's terrified. He's seen too much. Leaving him behind might make him vulnerable, maybe even a target for Sauron's influence later. Gandalf needs to keep him close, under his protection, under his guidance.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the chapter ends with this incredibly powerful image, doesn't it? Dawn breaking. Gandalf and Pippin, the mighty wizard, and the small, terrified hobbit leaping onto Shadowfax.
The greatest horse in Middle-earth.
And just galloping away, racing east towards Gondor, towards Minas Tirith, towards the next massive phase of the war. It's such a dramatic, cinematic exit from the Two Towers. Closes the Rohan chapter, literally rides into the next one. And that single event, Pippin just looking into the Palantír, it lets us dig into the really deep stuff, the philosophy beneath the plot, because this orb, it's way more than just a magical gadget.
Right, it carries some serious thematic weight. Let's break that down. Theme 1 you mentioned was the temptation of knowledge.
Yes. The Palantír is basically the ultimate symbol of wanting to see too much, wanting knowledge or vision that's beyond your station, beyond your ability to handle safely or wisely.
Trying to grasp more than you should.
Exactly. It's a recurring danger in Tolkien. Seeking power or knowledge that isn't rightfully yours or that you're not ready for.
And we see this play out with different characters, right? You mentioned Saruman and Pippin. How do they compare?
Well, both use the Palantír to look beyond their limits. But their motivations, and crucially their reactions, were totally different.
Saruman was driven by pride.
Pride and a lust for mastery. He wanted to control things, to understand secrets so he could dominate. He used the stone as a tool, thinking he was mastering it.
But he got played.
He got utterly played. He ended up enslaved to Sauron's will, becoming a puppet of the very power he tried to rival.
Okay, and Pippin?
Pippin's motive was, well, less grand. Curiosity. Maybe a bit of hobbit restlessness. Dangerous, yes, but not malicious, not driven by a desire to dominate.
And his reaction was just sheer terror.
Absolute, paralyzing terror. And that terror, combined with Gandalf stepping in immediately, it humbled him instantly. He learned his lesson the hard way right there. He saw the limit, felt the danger.
Whereas Saruman never learned.
Saruman, blinded by his arrogance, never found that humility. So that difference, how you react when you touch that kind of power or knowledge, that's key. It separates those who might be redeemed, like Pippin, from those who are lost, like Saruman.
That makes sense. And it leads right into your second theme, the power of smallness.
Which is maybe the central Tolkien theme, isn't it?
It really feels like it. This idea that the big world-changing events don't always hinge on the kings and wizards.
No, they often hinge on the little folk, the hobbits, who never asked for any of this. They didn't want power. They didn't want adventure. They just sort of stumbled into history.
And their smallness, their lack of ambition, is actually their shield.
It really is.
Yeah.
Sauron literally cannot comprehend them. He can't see their significance, so they can operate under his radar. The fate of the world isn't just decided in the war councils of the great.
Sometimes it's decided by a hobbit making a mistake in the middle of the night.
Exactly. Their value is precisely in not wanting the power that corrupts everyone else. The kings, the wizards, even stewards like Denethor later on.
That's such a powerful message for anyone listening, isn't it? That maybe the people who seem least important, who aren't aiming for the top, actually have this unique ability to change things because the powerful overlook them.
It's profoundly countercultural, even today. Which brings us to theme 3. Fate and providence. How does that fit in?
Well, you have this lucky mistake, right? Pippin screws up, Sauron misinterprets, the West gets an advantage. Seems like pure chance.
It does. But then you remember Gandalf's line, there was never much hope, just a fool's hope. Was Pippin's mistake just a random accident? Or is there something else going on?
Like destiny.
Yeah.
Or something guiding things.
Tolkien's worldview definitely hints at that. Maybe what looks like sheer foolish chance Pippin's blunder is actually providence at work. A higher power subtly guiding events, allowing good to emerge even from failure.
But only if the person involved stays humble.
That seems crucial. Good can come from the mistake, but only if Pippin accepts guidance, learns humility, which he does thanks to Gandalf. It suggests this interesting dynamic. Evil plans meticulously, maybe rigidly. Good often works through unexpected means, through error, through humility, through resilience. Sauron is calculating but brittle. The free peoples are flawed but adaptable.
Okay, interesting. And the last theme, the limits of vision.
Right. The Palantír offers vision, literal sight across distances. But that sight is incredibly dangerous. It's fallible.
How so? It shows what's real, doesn't it?
It shows something real, yes. But what you see, or how you interpret it, is filtered. Filtered through your own biases, your own state of mind.
Okay, so for Saruman.
His pride twisted everything he saw. He interpreted information through his desire for power, leading him to miscalculate and fall.
And for Pippin.
His vision was filtered through pure terror, which paradoxically led to Sauron getting the wrong message. But that was luck, really. It wasn't wisdom on Pippin's part.
So the lesson is, just seeing isn't enough.
Exactly. Knowledge, vision, information. Without wisdom, without context, without humility.
Yeah.
It's as dangerous as ignorance. Maybe more so. It can deceive you just as easily as it can enlighten you.
So beyond the philosophy, which is just fascinating, let's talk about Tolkien's writing itself here.
Yeah.
Section 6, the narrative bridge. How does this chapter work as a piece of storytelling?
Oh, it's masterful. Tolkien is really operating at his peak psychological level here. He takes Pippin's internal state, that mix of curiosity, then guilt, then sheer terror, then awe maybe, riding with Gandalf. And he uses that very relatable, very human or hobbit emotional journey to drive this huge mythic shift in the plot. Because we feel with Pippin, the consequences feel incredibly real and immediate to us as readers.
And the pacing is just relentless, isn't it? You go from that quiet camp scene to Pippin wrestling with himself, the suspense building, then bam,
Yeah.
the scream, the confrontation, the revelation.
And then Gandalf's snap decision, and they're gone, racing towards the future. It shifts gears so fast, but so smoothly. From domestic realism to psychic horror to epic urgency in just a few pages.
Structurally, you called it a perfect narrative bridge. What does that mean exactly? You said it was like a triple bridge.
Yeah, I think it serves 3 crucial functions to connect the different parts of the story, setting up everything for the Return of the King.
Okay, bridge number 1.
It definitively closes the book on the whole Rohani-Sangard storyline. That arc is complete. They won the battle, dealt with Saruman. Now, the heroes who remain there are turning their attention east. Done.
Makes sense. Bridge 2.
It kicks off the Gondor storyline immediately, urgently. The threat to Minas Tirith becomes the central focus. The very next time we see Gandalf and Pippin, they're literally arriving at the gates of the White City. The stage is reset.
Right. And the third bridge. You said it's often overlooked.
Yeah, I think so. It's about character placement. This chapter strategically removes Pippin from the group heading with Aragorn.
Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, who go off on their own path, the paths of the dead and all that.
Exactly. If Pippin had stayed with them, his entire storyline in Minas Tirith becoming a guard of the Citadel, his interactions with Denethor, saving Faramir, none of that could have happened. This chapter separates him, putting him exactly where he needs to be for his role in the next book. It's incredibly efficient plotting.
That's really clever. And the Palantír itself, it doesn't just disappear after this, does it? It comes back.
Oh, absolutely. It's introduced here as this corrupting influence, this dangerous tool, and that theme gets played out again even more tragically with Denethor, the Steward of Gondor.
Does Denethor use the same stone, the Orthanc one?
Ah, good question. It's actually a different stone. Gondor had its own Palantír in Minas Tirith, the Anor stone. Denethor uses that one, but the effect is similar, maybe even worse.
How so? What's the contrast between him and Pippin using a Palantír?
It's stark. Pippin looked out of foolish curiosity, was terrified, humbled, and accidentally helped the West. Denethor. He's strong. He's proud. He's the ruler of Gondor. He uses his stone deliberately, seeking intelligence to fight Sauron.
So a much more calculated use.
Yes. And Denethor is actually strong-willed enough that Sauron can't directly dominate his mind like he could have with Pippin, or like he eventually did with Saruman.
So Denethor resists.
He resists domination, yes. But Sauron is clever. He can't control Denethor, but he can control what Denethor sees through the stone.
Oh, like curating the feed.
Exactly. Sauron shows Denethor only images of overwhelming power, armies pouring out of Mordor, the hopelessness of resistance, endless night. He feeds Denethor despair.
So Denethor gets accurate information, maybe, but it's incomplete. Skewed.
Precisely. Accurate, but curated to break his spirit. And it works. Denethor, the wise, strong ruler, is driven to madness and despair by the very knowledge he sought. Believing all hope is lost, he gives up.
While Pippin, the fool, accidentally gives them hope through misinformation. Wow.
The same kind of tool, the same temptation of forbidden sight, leads one to despair and the other, through sheer luck and humility, to an accidental advantage. It's a brilliant thematic parallel.
And Tolkien manages all this without getting bogged down in explaining how the stones work.
That's his genius. He keeps it mysterious, ancient, unknowable. There's no user manual for the Palantír. By keeping the mechanics vague, he keeps the focus squarely on the psychological impact, the terror, the temptation, the corruption. It's all about the user's soul, not the technology. Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive into the Palantír. We've seen how Pippin's midnight impulse, his curiosity, it was almost disastrous.
Almost.
But incredibly, it ended up giving the West this unexpected, vital strategic edge. How? By tricking Sauron, making him look the wrong way at just the right time.
And the chapter itself acts as this crucial pivot point. It closes the door on Rohan and Isengard, the sort of political phase of the war.
And throws open the door to Gondor and the apocalyptic endgame. That ride on Shadowfax is the symbol of that transition. High speed, high stakes.
Yeah. And the deeper message, playing out through Pippin, but also contrasting him with Saruman and Denethor, it seems to be about the small choices.
Every choice matters. Every character matters. Even a mistake, even a really big one born from foolishness, can have profound consequences. And maybe humility, the ability to be terrified and learn from it, is actually more valuable in the end than pride or strength, or even wisdom, if that wisdom lacks humility.
It's fascinating how The Two Towers ends not with a battle cry, but with a look.
The gaze.
This meeting of eyes across worlds.
The ultimate evil staring at the seemingly most insignificant creature. And the evil blinked, essentially. It misjudged.
Because it couldn't comprehend something without ambition, without a lust for power. It couldn't comprehend simple curiosity, or maybe simple goodness.
That inability to perceive anything outside its own power-hungry framework is its undoing again and again. It's the subtle power of weakness, maybe. Or the strength that comes from not wanting what the enemy offers.
So maybe a final thought for you, listening. If the biggest bad guy, totally blinded by his own power and his rigid ideas about hierarchy, can be fooled, can be strategically diverted by the impulsive act of the smallest, arguably most foolish character, what does that say about the real power the little folk hold? That unrecognized strength, the one rooted maybe in humility, maybe in just being overlooked, could that be the most potent weapon against overwhelming odds? Something to think about.